All right, today's video is going to be about grit. So, this is something I'm very passionate about and interested in, and it's come out in the research and is becoming more mainstream. So, what is grit? Why does it matter? How can we use it in practice and sport to help our athletes improve? So, first, grit is perseverance, ability to maintain your long term goals and achieve those, and just overall resiliency. So, here's the definition of grit. It was founded and basically researched by this woman, Angela Duckworth. And before we even start, if it might be beneficial, head to her website at Gritscale and Angela Duckworth. You can just type those in into Google and take the quiz. It's very short. It's less than 10 questions or about 10 questions, and it'll give you a score and a number. So pause the video, take the score, Angela Duckworth Grit Scale, and then come back. So once you have that score, perfect. Now you'll understand a little bit better about what I'm going to talk about today and how this applies to sport and elite athletes. So one thing that's been found is super elite athletes have more grit than elite athletes. So if you want to be really elite, super elite, you need to have more grit. And there's a couple things that affect grit. So we'll look at hardships or negative events. We'll look at positive events. And then we'll just look at your interpretation and how much your mindset matters of those events. So, quick story about grit. Vincent van Gogh, absolutely famous artist and one of the most paid per painting artists and just most expensive art. Great guy. So, he actually started out as a working at a library and was just working super hard, and he worked non-stop at the library, worked so many hours. What happened was he didn't get ahead and he just wasn't improving. He didn't know what to do. So he basically decides to become a preacher, and he goes to these coal mines and is preaching for hours and hours and just working nonstop trying to get his message out, and just no one was listening. He didn't become mainstream like he wanted to. Eventually he pivots, becomes an artist. And only in the later years of his life did he really just stick to the plan and keep painting and really developing his skills at one thing. So Vincent van Gogh lacked grit for most of his life, and in his later years he was able to develop it and get better, and that's partly why he became successful. So researchers studied him. Now you have your grit score. Vincent van Gogh actually was about 40% more than, basically he was 40% grittiness, or better than less than half of the population when it came to comparing grit. So pretty low score, actually. So now negative events. How do hardships affect us? Hardships actually build resilience, or think about it as working out. So we put a controlled stress in our body and we adapt to it. Our body adapts. Now, if you have a negative life event, you're actually more likely to develop resilience. You're going to improve your pain tolerance. You're going to basically look at setbacks as just setbacks. They're not going to be something that causes you to quit or things like that. So negative life events are actually very important to stimulate adaptation. And you can think of the quote, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." That's actually well supported in the research. There's a lot of backing of that. And moderate stress builds more emotional function, life satisfaction, like we said, than not having something bad happen to you or being protected. As Gary Vaynerchuk or Gary Vee says a lot, when you're starting out and when you're beginning and you're a novice, you're going to eat shit for a long time. Basically, you're going to suck and you're going to take a long time to get better at things. So you have to keep that long-term goal the goal. Or as Dan John says, one of my favorite trainers, the goal is to keep the goal, which is grittiness, keeping your long-term goal the focus. So this is also very common in athletes. It's very common in physical therapy. Specifically physical therapy, you can predict whether someone's going to get better and decrease their pain by understanding their self-efficacy or how much they believe that they're going to improve. Aside from any anatomical or biological factors, such as a disc herniation, the people who get better are the ones who think they can get better and will. They allow themselves to improve. They view it as a setback and not something that's a lasting condition or a part of them. And we see that a lot in the clinic. They become their MRI, and it affects them negatively. So they don't have the grit to persevere through it. So mindset has a lot to do with it. And you'll see this in your athletes. Some, when they don't get something, they struggle and they can't really get through it. Whereas in practice, it's very important to also have wins. You want people to have things they can do that they can win at. So in the research, it's called the winner effect. It was made famous by this guy who actually wrote a book on it, and I can post his link about it. There's also YouTube talks on it, but it's called the winner effect or the winner's effect. Basically, if you have a success in something, whether it be a small victory or a small fight, you're way more likely to be successful in tougher next upcoming fights or events or skills or practices or games. The success in one thing predicts more success in the next thing, basically. It has nothing to do with talent, has nothing to do with anything except the psychological or physiological effects of winning. So if you can do a drill and you get really good at it and you win, you hit a home run, something like that, or a skill where they can master, anything you have that success in, it's going to improve your confidence. It's going to actually elevate testosterone. It's going to build more motivation. And the quote is from this paper is success breeds success. Success also breeds grit. And think about this with David Goggins, a very famous guy right now, right? Motivator, tough. He makes you do tough stuff. If you can do tough stuff and push yourself, well, then you're going to win. You're going to build more confidence. You're going to feel better about yourself like he did. It's like that last rep. You actually try a few more reps. That's a small win. Now, next time, you're more likely to be able to push yourself and do those reps as part of a normal workout. And another thing, like we talked about, gritty athletes are more successful. You want these people who stick with their goals. Think about some people you know when you were starting school, they changed their major, then they changed their major again. They weren't sure what they wanted to be when they wanted to grow up, which is very normal. But at some point, you have to pick something and you have to just try. You have to just continue to work at it. And these gritty people are the ones that are going to be your teammates at higher levels. They're going to all be very gritty. So we test every athlete that comes in. I test them physically, but I also test them mentally. So every Division I athlete that's come in has been correlated to having higher grit, which is no surprise really. Our Division I average, I make everyone take that test that I recommend that you guys take. Our Division I average of baseball players, softball players, people who recently played Division I in the last couple of years or have signed a letter of intent to play Division I baseball or softball are 80% grittier than normal people. Their average score is a 4.3 in my own research right now. So this just shows you need to think about in practice, in training, in workouts, and in life, you need to focus on how you can improve your grit and how you can have some adversity that will help you get stronger while at the same time also having things built into practice in your own life where you can get these small victories that will give you the confidence to keep trying and to keep working harder. So if you have any questions about grit, you can look up Angela Duckworth information. I can send you articles or research. And I find this very interesting. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this and your scores. Post your scores below, and you can tag me at Smart Rehab on Instagram or at Smart Rehab 1 on Twitter. Thanks.